Hello and welcome to the From My Perspective podcast. I am your host, Marcus Marshall, and today we have a lot of topics going from the NFL to the NBA to March Madness, and March Madness is finally here. I have something that's irritating me, but I'll let you know during the segment. The first topic we're going to start in the NFL, and it's the Dallas Cowboys reneging on releasing Tony Romo for the moment in hopes they'll find a trade partner. After finding out that it's literally a two-team race between the Denver Broncos and the Houston Texans, the Cowboys decided to say, we're not going to release him, but we're going to try to see if we can get something for him in a trade. But the Cowboys aren't going to get any offers because the Broncos and Texans can just wait it out. The Cowboys don't want a $24.7 million cap hit on their books, and all that for a backup quarterback. And if the Texans decide to make an offer, it'll be an atrocious. No, not only the Texans or the Broncos decide to make an offer, or anyone for that matter, it'll be an atrocious offer, like a sixth round in the future sixth round, because the Cowboys are going to release him at some point, and the Texans and Broncos are just playing the waiting game. As I said in my Tony Romo video, the Texans happen to be all in, trading Brock Osweiler and a second round pick to Cleveland just to clear off some cap for Tony Romo. So yeah, if Jerry Jones and the Cowboys think they're getting anything but Tony Romo, they're dead wrong. Flipping it over to the AFC, have the Patriots made themselves Super Bowl champions back-to-back? Have they guaranteed themselves another Super Bowl? And the answer to that is obvious, and Super Bowls are not guaranteed. But the Patriots have positioned themselves to win another Super Bowl. Bill Belichick has realized that he has 2 more years tops with Tom Brady and is wasting no time whatsoever with Tom Brady's career. He has positioned his team to sustain itself even if Brady doesn't have a stellar year. Belichick has acquired tight end Dwayne Allen from the Colts in exchange for a 4th and 6th round pick. He has signed cornerback Stephon Gilmore to a 5-year, $65 million contract with $40 million guaranteed. And the biggest move they've made so far is trading their 1st and 3rd overall pick to the New Orleans Saints in exchange for wide receiver Brandon Cooks in the Saints' 4th round, among other moves. Also, according to multiple reports, the Jets and Titans both expect Patriots linebacker / free agent Dante Hightower to return to the Patriots. So with all that being said, it would shock me if the Patriots were not overwhelming favorites to win the Super Bowl when the odds are released. And just to elaborate really quickly on the 3 accusations, the first being Dwayne Allen, he basically brought in a replacement to replace Martellus Bennett, who surprisingly signed with the Green Bay Packers, so they'll be able to run their 2 tight end set and survive even without Rob Gronkowski, who has had an injury history and is practically injury prone. Next up, Stephon Gilmore, who I don't believe met his full potential in Buffalo, and still managed to be a Pro Bowler. Gilmore is a big body, 6'1", 190-pound corner who has speed. So he's the whole package, and with the coaching of Bill Belichick, I believe he really can reach his full potential, and the Patriots secondary can be scary with Butler and Gilmore operating on the corners, Hightower locking down the middle, among other key pieces on this team. And finally, the accusation of Brandon Cooks, a receiver who can be a matchup nightmare for opposing teams. Brady hasn't had a weapon like this since Randy Moss, and that was the year they went 18-1, losing a stunner to the Giants. But as a quick sidebar, obviously I'm not comparing Cooks to Moss career-wise. I'm just comparing their impact on the Patriots can be similar. And this segues me into one of the things that I just thought about a while ago. And I'm beginning to think this is Tom Brady's last year. A lot of people saying he has 2 to 3 more years. But with how aggressive the Patriots have been in free agency this year, I'm beginning to think this is Tom Brady's last year. And throughout all the aggressive moves such as Cooks, Allen trading draft picks, they didn't trade Jimmy Garoppolo, whose contract is up next year, and will be expecting big money or a reasonable amount of money. And I don't think he'll be staying with the Patriots if Tom Brady is still there, which leads me to believe this will be Tom Brady's last year, and they will move on into the Garoppolo era next season. So that's just something I thought about, and I think that everyone should think about, and just decided to bring light to it. Other notable free agency moves, so this is all players that are leaving, joining other teams that are, notable players. The Lions get no hometown discount when signing ex-Packers offensive lineman TJ Lang, who agreed to a 3-year, $28.5 million deal with $19 million guaranteed. Packers also signed former Patriot Martellus Bennett to a 3-year, $21 million deal with $7.2 million guaranteed. Both of the Redskins' top wide receivers depart for NFC foes as Deshaun Jackson signs a 3-year, $33.5 million with $20 million guaranteed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and Pierre Garçon signs with the San Francisco 49ers on a 5-year, $47.5 million deal with $20 million guaranteed. The Bears hand out big money to former Tampa Bay Buccaneers backup quarterback Mike Glennon in a 3-year, $45 million deal with $18.5 guaranteed. The Eagles beef up their wide receiving corps, signing Alshon Jeffrey to a 1-year, $9.5 million deal, and Torrey Smith to a 3-year, $15 million deal with $500,000 guaranteed. So that's an extremely cheap deal for a player like Torrey Smith. And the rundown of the rest of the notable signings: Kyle Juszczyk signs with the San Francisco 49ers, Calais Campbell to the Jacksonville Jaguars, and Matt Khalil to the Carolina Panthers. So a very exciting free agency up to this point. And remember, we still have a lot more free agency to go. And the draft is around the corner, which translates perfectly into the next segment. This draft is loaded with pass rushers, running backs, and defensive backs. And it's really loaded at running back. That's why the market is currently killing players like Adrian Peterson, who thought he had all this value when he got cut by Minnesota, and then has come to a reality check, so to speak, that he's not valuable anymore, and the running backs are becoming interchangeable. You know, guys coming through the draft, undrafted free agents, they just, in a passing league, you just need running backs that give production. And in this draft class, you have potential game changers. You have players like Leonard Fournette, Delvin Cook, Christian McCaffrey, Jeremy McNichols, Deontay Foreman, and even the controversial Joe Mixon, who I have in my 3rd or 4th best back in the whole class. And I don't like to speak on issues such as domestic violence, but if the man has really learned, I mean truly learned from his mistakes, then we should forgive. Not forget, but forgive. I believe the incident happened almost 3 or 4 years ago. And seeing the video to me versus him telling me or the media changes nothing. Similar to Ray Rice. If Ray Rice walked in my office and told me, hey, I hit my girlfriend and knocked her out, I'd react the exact same as if I saw the video. I'd give him more than 4 games. Remember, Mixon was suspended an entire season in 2015. I'd honestly give him about an 8-game suspension, 8+ game suspension, because that is a heinous crime. That is just not acceptable. And I hate to go all political, but in my moral belief, that is just not acceptable. And what the NFL did to Joe Mixon, I believe, was doing him a favor. You don't get a chance to participate in the NFL Combine. Okay, so he avoids all the interviews with the reporters and the NFL teams that want him to explain the incident, and he really didn't have a chance to hurt his draft stock. He can go out there on the NFL Combine and have a terrible showing, and now with his history and his poor performance, it has dropped. I mean, albeit he did have a pretty solid pro day, but people need to stop waiting to see the video if someone has already admitted to a crime. I don't need to see a video of you beating a woman if you've told me. I'm going to react the exact same. But that's my mini rant on that. People shouldn't need a video to back up what they admitted to. But back to the topic. This draft class is heavy in 3 particular areas, and here's a look at my mock draft 1.0. And at first glance, yes, you do see 2 running backs going in the top 6. But I'll explain that when we get to them. Number 1 is the obvious choice. Myles Garrett, a freak of nature, had a wonderful combine. Cleveland would be just insane not to take Myles Garrett, number 1. San Francisco taking Marshawn Lattimore of Ohio State. The 49ers had the worst defense in the NFL, allowing 30 points per game and almost 6 yards per play. They have made moves to improve their team, but mostly on the offensive end. So this will be a great start for their defense. And at 3, you see that we have Jonathan Allen of Alabama going to Chicago. Chicago also needs help on the defensive end, and they continue putting a defense around who they hope to be the quarterback of the future, Mike Glennon. The Jaguars T.J. Yeldon isn't turning out to be the back that they all thought that he would be. So you take Leonard Fournette, a power back who likes to run through defenders. He's not really a side-to-side kind of guy. He's a smash mouth, goes straight up the middle kind of running back. He hits the hole. He goes straight up the field. And in the Jaguar system, with two solid receivers, Allen Hurns and Allen Robinson. So adding a back like Leonard Fournette who will command defense's attention can really help this Jaguars offense, who has really improved their defense. So the lackluster part of this team is the offense. On the defensive side, you have Dante Fowler Jr., Calais Campbell now. You still have Paul Plusnowski. They added A.J. Bouye and Miles Jack and Jalen Ramsey. So this defense is improving and will become one of the best defenses in the league. On paper, if I'm looking at it right now, I would put my money that this defense will be one of the best defenses in the league in about 5 to 7 years. At the 5th overall pick, we have the Titans adding to their defense with Jamal Adams, a strong safety out of LSU. I do think that the Titans need help on defense. Their offense is pretty good with Marcus Mariota, DeMarco Murray, Derrick Henry, and with the smash mouth kind of football that they play, that is the perfect offense right there. They have a solid offensive line who's growing together. And on the defensive side is where they lack. So I do think they'll draft Jamal Adams at this point. Tennessee's defense allowed 24 points per game and 270 passing yards. So they definitely need to improve there. So this would be the perfect pick for them. At number 8, we have the Carolina Panthers selecting Solomon Thomas of Stanford. Not much to say there. They do need defensive help, and he is one of the pieces that they could use and hopefully develop into something. At number 9, we have the Bengals taking wide receiver Mike Williams out of Clemson. Williams has really fell on the back burner in talks of publicity and stuff like that. But I do think he'll be an impact player at the next level, and putting him alongside A.J. Green, Andy Dalton could have a pretty dynamic wide receiver tandem if Mike Evans turns into the star that I believe he'll be. At 10th overall, we have the Bills taking O.J. Howard. The Bills have committed to Tyrod Taylor after restructuring his contract. And with Sammy Watkins on the outside, they do need some interior presence. So O.J. Howard, who can block, catch, and pretty much in Alabama, they run a pro-style offense, so he'll definitely be ready for the pro style of play. And I think he'll be the best tight end. He is the best tight end in this draft class and will become a very, very solid player, if not a multiple-time Pro Bowler. Number 11, we have the Saints taking Quincy Wilson out of Florida. And this draft class is just so loaded with corners that you can really flip and flop any quarter at the top of your board, the bottom of your board, in the middle of the first round. That's just how deep this is. Do have the Saints taking Quincy Wilson. They do need help on the defensive end and starting with their secondary. So he was a great addition to this team. Number 12, we have Cleveland finally taking a quarterback with Mitchell Trubisky, as he's known to say. As he said, he wanted to be called Mitchell instead of Mitch now. So we'll call him Mitchell Trubisky out of North Carolina. Strong arm guy who I happen to think will be a star in this league. If you look back at my quarterback video, the 3 quarterbacks that I believe that have the potential to turn into something, I'm very high on Mitchell Trubisky. And if the Browns use their draft picks right, as right now I have them taking 2 hits in Myles Garrett and Mitch Trubisky, the future can be bright in Cleveland, but we can only hope. At number 13, we have the Cardinals preparing for the future by drafting Deshaun Watson. We don't know how much time Carson Palmer has left in the league, so it's about time that the Cardinals take Deshaun Watson, and groom him into the quarterback of the future. Number 14, we have the Eagles taking Tez Tabor. I hope I pronounced that right, Tez Tabor out of Florida. Another cornerback. The Eagles do need secondary help as they beef up their wide receiver positions in their offense. They do need help on the defensive end so they don't, give up a lot of points. At number 15, we have the Colts taking Christian McCaffrey. I know they need a lot, and I mean a lot, of offensive line help, but I think Christian McCaffrey is the best running back in this draft class. He can catch, he can block, he can run, he can do all the things that you need a running back to do. And if I'm the Colts, if he's there at 15, I can't pass up on this opportunity. The Colts will hopefully, look to build their line in the 2nd through 7th round with players like Deion Dawkins, Antonio Garcia, and David Sharp possibly being there definitely being there in the 2nd through 7th rounds. And at 16, we have the Baltimore Ravens selecting Derek Barnett out of Tennessee. They do need defensive help, and the line is a perfect place to start. He is a solid pass rusher. He's an SEC pass rusher. They know he's played in a pro-style defense. He's played against top-level competition, and I think this would be a good pick for the Ravens. At number 17, we're going straight up 301. We have the Washington Redskins taking wide receiver John Ross out of Washington, who helped himself a lot, running a 4.22, breaking Chris Johnson's 40-time record of 4.24. And with the Redskins losing their 2 best receivers and being stuck with Josh Doctson as the number 1, I think this is a no-brainer taking John Ross, who can clearly get separation. He's a good route runner. He's a solid returner. He's a do-it-all kind of wide receiver, and this would be a very solid pick for the Washington Redskins. At 17, we have the Tennessee Titans taking Corey Davis, wide receiver out of Western Michigan, as I have them beefing up their defense with Jamal Adams and at the 5th pick in the draft, and now I have them getting Marcus Mariota a big-time target. Corey Davis really put himself on the map this year as Western Michigan had a breakout year before losing to Wisconsin in the Sugar Bowl. And at 19, we have Tampa Bay beefing up the offensive line to help out Jameson Winston and Doug Martin by drafting offensive tackle out of Wisconsin, Ryan Ramczyk. At 20, we have the Denver Broncos doing the same thing, hopefully beefing up their offensive line for Tony Romo, but Paxton Lynch or Trevor Siemian in the meantime, taking offensive tackle out of Utah, Garrett Bowles. At 21, we have the Detroit Lions taking Marlon Humphrey, cornerback out of Alabama. The Lions do need secondary help, and he can do just that. At 22, we have the Miami Dolphins taking Tre'Davious White, cornerback out of LSU. Like I said, this class is loaded with defensive backs, and if you need a defensive back, you can get one. Tre'Davious White is no slouch, and he can definitely make an impact in his first year. At 23, we have the New York Giants taking Patrick Mahomes II. Surprising pick. I did mention him in my video, and the Giants are looking to groom a quarterback behind Eli Manning. What better pick than Mahomes? Mahomes is a gunslinger like Eli. They don't really mind throwing the occasional interception, even though they tend to throw a lot more than a team would like. So you're basically grooming, and what better way to learn that play style than under Eli Manning? So Mahomes has a bigger arm than Eli, and he has a lot of potential. So I see the Giants taking this pick and grooming him over the years into their next starting quarterback. At number 24, we have the Raiders taking Adore Jackson out of USC, so he'll be staying in California unless the Raiders decide to move to Las Vegas. The Raiders do need defensive help. If anything, that was their downfall prior to Derek Carr being injured, so he can definitely help there. I have the Houston Texans beefing up their offensive line in hopes of landing Tony Romo, taking Cam Robinson out of Alabama. And at 26, we have the Seattle Seahawks taking another Alabama product in Tim Williams, defensive end, to help beef up their defense, which seemed to look nothing like what it used to be. Definitely aging, and he'll add some youth. I have the Kansas City Chiefs at 27 getting a steal in Reuben Foster despite the incident that happened at the Combine. I believe that most teams will just let that slide. And at 28, we have the Dallas Cowboys taking Charles Harris, defensive end out of Missouri, to help beef up their defense with Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott, Dez Bryant holding down the offensive side. At 29, I have the Green Bay Packers taking Sidney Jones, cornerback out of Washington, who did sustain, I believe, an Achilles injury at the NFL Combine. The Packers he was my number 1 corner, but I do have him sliding after the injury. But I do think the Packers will take him. They do like to groom their players anyway, so I think he'll be, once he's fully recovered, he'll begin to be groomed into that top-tier corner that I think he'll be. At number 30, we have Jabril Peppers of Michigan, who could play. He was the hybrid player who can do it all, but he'll likely be playing safety/corner at the NFL level. I have him going to the Pittsburgh Steelers, who definitely need secondary help. At number 31, I have Marcus Williams, free safety out of Utah, to help add speed and more talent to that Falcons' young and quick defensive team. It wore down the Patriots early on, forced Tom Brady to throw a bad pick, and to keep adding more speed to that team, the Falcons could be a problem in years to come. And at 32, I have the Saints grooming the quarterback of the future in Deshaun Kaiser, who I'm not a big fan of. He does have a big arm, and under the tutelage of Drew Brees, I think he could be a good player. I don't think he'll be that spectacular player that a lot of people are saying, or a few people that I've heard talking about him say he will be. So the Saints take Deshaun Kaiser to end out the first round. And that will end out our NFL segment, and we'll enter into the final segment of the day, and that is the NCAA tournament is here and the madness has begun. But before I explain my bracket and how I usually pick my first bracket, there's something that bothers me about a particular team they didn't get in. And I know it's very controversial and all that, but what I'm going to do is put up a blind resume. And you can see it on your screen. Team A and Team B. I'm going to read it out. Record, Team A is 18-14, 10-9 in their conference. And Team B is 24-9 and 11-9 in their conference. So obviously Team B has the advantage there. But once I reveal the conferences, I think you'll understand why. Strength of schedule, Team A is 58th and Team B is 73rd. And RPI, Team A is 84th and Team B is 41st. The average opponent RPI is 106 for Team A and 134 for Team B. And record versus the RPI top 50, so 1 through 50, is 6-8 for Team A and 2-6 for Team B. Now, I think you know which two teams I'm talking about. Team A is Syracuse and Team B is USC. And I think Syracuse should have got in. The reason Syracuse's record looks so bad because they played in the best conference in the NCAA. The Pac-12 is no slouch, but it is nothing compared to the ACC. How could you leave out a team that beat Florida State, who's in, beat Virginia, who's in, beat Duke, who's in? They did stumble in the ACC tournament, losing to Miami, but they did beat Miami, who is in the tournament. And they did have some struggles during the season, dropping a few bad ones. I'm not going to lie to you. They did lose to Georgetown. They did lose to St. John's. They got blown out by St. John's. They did lose to Boston College. But you're going to lose some bad games if you play a gauntlet of a schedule. Imagine playing at North Carolina, at Wake Forest, in back-to-back games. Imagine playing versus Duke and at Louisville in back-to-back games. I'm not saying back-to-back days, but back-to-back games. So you mean to tell me a team that plays in the best conference, not to mention Miami, Pittsburgh, Virginia Tech, all these teams are quality teams. You have teams like NC State who had Dennis Smith, who's a problem to guard by himself. You have Virginia. You have quality programs in this conference. USC, you really only have to worry about Oregon and UCLA. Let's be real. They did beat UCLA. That is a quality win. But what else have they actually done to earn their way into the tournament? As you can see, Syracuse even took the initiative to put top 50 teams on the schedule. USC played 8. Syracuse played 14. And overall, I think if USC is one of your last 4, and there's no way possible that you put them over a Syracuse team. If you put the two teams on the court and have them play it in, I think Syracuse wins that game without a doubt. But there's nothing I can do about it. That's just my rant on it. I really feel like Syracuse should have been in. And Boeheim, Jim Boeheim, really had something going when he was. People said he was whining, he was complaining, he was upset. Rightfully so. You go out of your way to put together. Well, you play in a top tier conference and you put some good out of conference games. They did play UConn. They did stumble. They did play Wisconsin. They did play South Carolina, who's in the tournament. They played some good teams. They didn't play a gauntlet out of conference schedule because you got to go in conference and play a gauntlet of a schedule. So I don't fault Syracuse for it, and I think they should have got in. Well, that's my rant on that. Back to my bracket. My first reaction bracket, I have a 12 and 13 seed meeting up in Middle Tennessee State in Winthrop. And I always do my first bracket based on just reaction, just spontaneous, who I think will win, and it's usually my most accurate one. But after carefully reviewing the bracket, I see a lot of possible upsets. I see Middle Tennessee State over Minnesota. Less confidently, I see Winthrop over Butler. Wichita State over Dayton. That's a seed upset. I do believe Wichita is the favorite in the game, but it's a seed upset. Vanderbilt over Northwestern. Marquette over South Carolina. East Tennessee State over Florida, who I'm not really confident about that one either. And my most confident upset, and what I am almost guaranteed to tell you what happened, is Rhode Island over Creighton. Nothing wrong with Creighton. I just think Rhode Island can pull it off. And it'd be fun to see if Rhode Island can shock Creighton. And March Madness is upon us, as I said earlier. And you can participate in our ESPN Tournament Challenge. To join, type in Perspective Sports in the group section. You are allowed up to 3 entries. Join today and let us enjoy the madness together. Overall, that is the podcast. I hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you next time.